Hey, good day, folks. Welcome to another episode of Andrew's Life. Today's video is probably not going to be that long, but it's going to be an important one. And today's video is going to be about slavery. And let me just tell you guys something. I'm going to get right to it right now. You see, as many of you are, I'm also all over social media myself. Being that I'm a content creator, I like to know what's going on out here. So, one thing that for some reason has been getting on my nerves more and more is when certain people use the word slave. Now, the word slavery is a word much like the word racism or racist. It's a word that has been overused and misused in the American vocabulary. Now, most of us know what slave means. Now, some of you may have been brainwashed and you don't know what slave really means anymore. So, just in case you forgot what what the word slave means, let me bring you up to snuff a little bit on some elementary level type stuff. Now, the last time I knew, a slave was a individual or people that were forced to work for free. They did not get any kind of compensation whatsoever. Now, the slavery that happened here in the United States, that happened to my ancestors, they were forced to work for free. They were kidnapped to this country from Africa. They did not have a choice of what kind of work they wanted to do. They did not have a choice of where in this country they wanted to live. Wherever the need was is where they had to go. And of course, of course they had slave masters. And if a slave chose to run away off the plantation, in most cases they were captured and they were brought back to their plantation and they were punished severely. And sometimes the punishment could be up to and including deletion. So I'm pretty sure most of us that have a quarter of a brain cell knows what happened during slavery here in the United States to my ancestors. And with that being said, I just can't stand when people, I don't care whether you're white, black, whatever, I just can't stand when anyone wants to talk about working a 9 to 5. And then somehow they want to use slavery and working a job in the same sentence. Now I get that the job market out here is messed up. I get that a lot of companies aren't paying what employees ought to be making. I get all that. I get that many employers are not appreciative of their workers. I get all that. However, regardless of what type of work you get, regardless of how low your pay is, regardless of how low you think your pay is, and all that type of good stuff, understand one thing. For those of you that are making videos about how bad it is to work a 9 to 5 and how companies don't pay enough money to their employees, do me a favor. Now, I know many people ain't gonna hear this video, but for those of you that are watching this video and you create content yourself, please do me a favor, and also put some respect on it. You know what I'm saying? Put some respect on it. Show my ancestors some respect. I mean, quit talking about how a job is paying low, and then you want to talk about how it's slavery. Because as many of you know, and as I just explained a second ago, in slavery, you're forced to work for free. You don't get no compensation whatsoever. And during slavery here in the United States, slaves were not given a choice of where they wanted to work. They were purchased by slave masters, they're put on a plantation, and if they didn't do what they were told to do, then they got severely punished, and that punishment could be including the deletion of their own life. And of course, with these slaves, they're forced to, you know, have children unwillfully, and then the kids got put on the plantation too. So, just due to the terrible history of slavery here in the United States, I can't stand when people use the word slave, when people misuse the word slave. I can't stand it. I mean, I've worked my fair share of jobs that didn't pay worth a crap. Like many of you work your fair share of jobs that don't pay worth a crap, and some of you still are. And you're frustrated. You can't pay your bills. I get it. I got it. I understand. But guess what? You're not a slave. And quit saying that you're a slave, because you're not a slave. If you're working a job that doesn't pay worth a crap, you have a choice. You can quit that job and get you another job. Oh, the economy is tough. Okay, well, guess what you can do? You can go learn a new skill and then get you a better job. I mean, even in economies like the economy that we're currently suffering through right now, none of us who work a job that doesn't pay what we feel it ought to be are slaves. None of us are slaves. None of us are. I mean, regardless of how much your job sucks and how low the pay might be, nobody is forcing you to work that job. You are not forced to work that job. You're working that job willingly. No one is forcing you to work that job. If you don't like that job, you can quit that job today and walk off and go work another job tomorrow if you wanted to. If you don't like the occupation that you're in for whatever reason, you can go back to school. You can take whatever training that is necessary to get yourself into another occupation. If you don't like where you live, because let's say where you live the economy is trash, well, guess what? You can pack your stuff up and move somewhere else to an economy to where jobs are more plentiful, to where the economy is better, to where you might get jobs that might offer you better pay and better work conditions. Now, I know you guys are probably thinking, nah, man, it ain't that easy, man. Everything costs us money. Everything is expensive. Yeah, you're right. Everything is. But guess what? Nevertheless, it still is an option that you have. It still is an option that is on the table. You might have to work for that option. You might have to make some temporary sacrifices for that option, but it still is an option on the table. And again, let me remind you guys, you know, people that were true slaves in this country didn't have any of those options, period, point blank. They did not have the option to educate themselves, to learn new skills. They didn't have the option to go from being an actual slave to work in a position that pays money. I mean, hell, during slavery, it was against the law for slave masters or anyone within their community to teach slaves how to read or do arithmetic. You know, because it used to be the law back during slavery that if you taught a slave how to read, if you taught a slave how to do math, that was a crime that was punishable through through deletion. So for people that have a quarter of a brain cell, that know even the basics of the history of slavery in the United States, ought to understand why it's disrespectful. It's disrespectful to my ancestors that people like myself, especially people that are of my race, would even use the word slavery in the same sentence of talking about their 9 to 5 that they dislike. Because the options that we have today here in the United States and other countries similar to the United States, I'm not saying the United States is perfect, because it certainly isn't, but the options that we have today in first world countries like this one, you know, back when my ancestors were slaves here on this same soil, they didn't have none of those options. They were, like I said, they had none of those options. They weren't even allowed to learn to read or to do arithmetic. Anything that they invented, they didn't get credit for those inventions. The slave masters and their families got credit for those inventions. So just bear that in mind. And you know, this is the reason why I cannot stand content creators that want to cry about working a 9 to 5 and then they want to talk about how it's slavery. It's like, all I gotta say to people like that is, pick up a book, you know, maybe go online, go on Google, go on Bing, and do a little bit of research and study what truly took place in this country during the days of slavery. Study how slaves are treated. No matter how intelligent they may have been, no matter how big or how strong they may have been, just study on how they were treated. And after you study how they were treated, if you have a quarter of a brain cell, I will hope that when you make a video crying about how crappy your 9 to 5 is, you would at least have enough respect for my ancestors to quit using the word slavery because you're working some job that sucks that you don't like. If your job sucks, then do something about it. You know, get further your education, further your skill set. And if for whatever reason you don't want to do that, okay, that's fine. Then, you know, work your low-paying job, work 2 jobs. You know, start your own business. I mean, there's options out here today. You do not have to be a slave. If you feel that you're being a slave, you don't have to be a slave. Quit being a slave today, right now, right this very second. You were never a slave in the first place. So till next time, if you like what I do, go ahead, give this video a thumbs up. If you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel and stay blessed. I'll catch you guys on the next one.